All right, everybody. I've got another very special guest for you all. I think you all know this very special guest, comic creator, friend, Travis Gibb. What's going on, man?
Hey, am I the most frequent person?
We were discussing that the other day. I think if it's got, I think you've gone over Cullen Bunn, but I think
Yeah,
Richard Fairgray's coming for the title.
yeah, he's been on a lot recently. What's going on with that?
I love Richard Fairgray, so when he
I mean,
calls, I answer.
I do too. Like, I'm a big fan. Like, did you read Octopus?
I did.
I did. I thoroughly enjoyed that book. It was such a breath of fresh air. Just as someone who's been reading comics as long as you and I have, to see like these auto picks. They've gone out of the wayside. They're not around anymore. They used to be so like ingrained. Like every year they'd be a good one, and there
Mm-hmm.
hasn't been. And reading Octopus really fit that. And I found when I was reading Octopus, like trying to put together because you'd have the year at the beginning and kind of it would skip around, and you're like, all right, so what breakup was before this? Is that this guy? Is that guy? Like I was fascinated by the whole thing.
I think on its own, somebody could jump into it and really love it. But as somebody that knows Richard as well as I do, it was also interesting for me to like place the stories within the stories I've heard from him, not only in the show, but just talking privately
Right,
or
sure.
whatever. So it was fun, and some of those stories I've heard before too. So like to see them acted out, so to
Right.
say, it's really well done. And what's amazing about it to me is this comes to my personal biases and what I read and watch and everything. That's not a book I would ever pick up. That's not
Sure.
a book I would really check out. But Rich is a friend and I got it, and it kind of opened my eyes to like, maybe I like this.
Right.
So I've been trying to tell people to check it out because I just think it's really good. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the voice that I want to hear from that community. Like I respect that community. I love that community, and I've backed and supported tons of that community. But it's all very similar material, and I like seeing a different piece. Right? You know, you and I were talking before we started. Kevin Smith, like Kevin Smith, opened my eyes about what LGBT was, even that before it was a thing, right? Like we kept when I watched Chasing Amy back in the day, like what does that look like? What is that? And then this opened my eyes again. Richard Fairgraves for me is such an interesting creator because he really messed up my comic world, right? Like I was on my path. All right, here, how do I get to Marvel and DC? How do I get to Scout? Then I get to, Aftershock was my plan. Then IDW, then, Image, then Marvel. How do I go up that path? And then this guy's like, oh, I've been writing comics for 20 years. Like, what are you talking about? You've been writing comics for 20 years. I've never heard of you. Never heard any of your books. And he's like, search Amazon. And like, you see these sales and reviews and love for this guy's work. And that guy's not welcome at a con, right? Like if he was at a con, I would complain that this guy got a spot and I didn't, because it's so crazy to me that people who are doing the same craft as me exist and they do something in the bookstore market that I don't even understand or can fathom. And that really changed my views on comics and the way I pursue comics, because I don't look at that market as a viable market, even though that market outsells the comic store market on the regular. Dog Man's going to kill Spider Man,
Oh, yeah.
it's fascinating. So yeah, absolutely.
What's funny about him, he runs in a group of two guys I've met who both told me no one ever invites me on shows when I first invite them. And I had discovered Blastosaurus. And the funny part is it was a free comic book day issue of Blastosaurus that was done
Mm-hmm.
against Richard's will.
Right.
And I read it and I was like, this is amazing. Who is this? And I saw who it was. And I was like, I'm going to contact this guy. And I contacted him and we talked. And then after the show, he's like, no one ever invites me to do this stuff. The other person to tell me that was Derek Robertson. So for those two to be in the same group together, in my mind, it makes me laugh,
Right.
especially since Derek did a cover for Blastosaurus.
No, I did not know that. Wow.
Yes. So yeah, I remember he came on the show and he told us this crazy story about being in LA and like meeting this homeless guy on the street and like bubbles were coming out of nowhere and he was convinced he was going to go on a side quest. And I just fell in love with the man at that moment
Right.
because I knew he had stories to tell and somebody
Oh,
needs it. I'm glad more people are jumping on the bandwagon. So
he is. Well, yeah, it's funny seeing his audience and him building his audience. It's pretty cool to watch that as he builds this different audience. It's not the book club audience.
yeah. I also found it funny when I had mentioned to him at one point, like, have you ever thought about doing Kickstarter? This is years and years and years ago, and he said, "No, nobody builds a career on Kickstarter.
where now that's his whole plan.
Times have changed, my friend. I loved it,
Yeah.
and like most things, I blame David Pose for that because he. So Fairgrade told me nobody had gone from Kickstarter to Marvel, and then Pose was the first guy I knew that went from Kickstarter to Marvel. And I remember I emailed Fairgrade. And I was like, "So it's happened. Like somebody did it."
Right.
But yeah. So yeah, you're here for a reason. I mean,
Are we here to talk about Pepos? Because I have him on my show on Monday. If you have any questions, he's on Level Up. I know you've talked to him a few times, but
yeah, ask him why he won't come on my show anymore.
all right,
Um,
I'll talk to him. I'll see what I can do. All I got to say is a lot of my peers got a copy of that Moon Knight issue, and they say it's great. But me, who has him on the show, did not get a copy of that. So we're going to address that live.
good. You can also ask him why he's killing Moon Knight for me.
Oh, you're upset about him doing a Moon Knight mini?
No, I'm upset that Jed McKay's run's coming to an end.
Ah, well, I'm hoping that secretly he's got the run coming up
So
because I
I'm
want.
convinced, and I've been convinced of this before, and it didn't happen. But I'm convinced that they're setting up the dual run, so the miniseries and the ongoing are going to end at the same time to set up a Pose's run, which I'm fine with because if I get another good run, I'm happy. But if
Yeah,
it just goes away like it has in the past, and I have to wait for season 2 of Moon Knight to come out, I'm going to be very upset.
yeah. I mean, Moon Knight. I was really sad. I mean, I knew Jed McKay was going to have to quit something
Yeah,
to do the Avengers run. Um, Personally, if I was him, I would have got rid of Strange, but whatever, that's fine. Um, but yeah, because Jed McKay is literally my favorite writer at Marvel. Like he's replaced since Donnie's gone. Like I needed to have a new baby, and Jed McKay is my baby. He has not written anything that I didn't love. Though I will tell you that there's two people who are going up for me. Steve Orlando, really starting to love that guy's stuff. Not just the Scarlet Witch, but the 2099. I don't think I appreciated him fixing that universe for me because at the time I was just so in shock that someone cared enough to fix it. And then when the second arc in the fixed universe came out, I have like Halloween Jack right now. I'm like, oh, like it really is fixed. Like I thought it was just a story and like we're not doing it, but we really are. And then I can't pronounce his last. Packin is the guy who's doing Carnage right now. He did All Against Us for Image. He's doing Carnage right now. Alex Pucko?
oh
He's doing a few books right now.
yeah, I can't pronounce his name either.
Yeah. But I'm really liking his stuff so far. He's even doing the Red Goblin, and I thought that book was going to be garbage, and I'm only reading it because I have to read all Spider-Man because I signed some contract with Mephisto when I was born. So I and it's really good. Like it's super good.
I'm so yeah, Jed's probably my favorite. I mean, I'll always love Jason Aaron, but his Avengers run was up and down. I kind of hope he goes back to more of a street. I was hoping he was going to take Daredevil, but that obviously didn't happen. And I don't know who else he could take at this point, or if he just wants to go solo, which he's earned that.
I mean, I got to tell you, I may have private messaged you I am not excited about this new Daredevil one. I'm not a fan of Samid. It's Samid. How do you say his last name?
Saladin Ahmed.
Saladin. I wasn't a huge fan of his Miles run. I'm not saying it's bad. You read it, the Clone Saga. You had Vulture's daughter, but I don't even know that girl's name, so it's not that memorable to me. Like, it was okay, but it wasn't like you deserve Daredevil. Like, because for me, Daredevil is the top tier. Like,
I I remember at the time, so I enjoyed his run, but a couple of things to throw out there. I'm not a Spider-Man guy. I'm a Miles guy.
right,
So I'm not bogged down with. I've already read these stories because
sure,
I don't dig into Spider-Man that often, but I do remember that it was an editorial direct that all these new characters. So Kamala Khan, which what happened to her recently is probably part
sure,
of this, and Miles and a few of the others, they had to go through the gauntlet that
right,
every other character had to go through. So they were kind of being forced to go through old stories. And I thought he did a good enough job of doing those old stories and trying to do something different with it.
right.
Like I liked the alt universe Miles story. I thought that was fun. Um, I think he's a solid writer. He did something else that I really liked, and I can't remember what it is now. I read too many books. But am I as excited as when they announced Chip was coming to the book? No.
Right. Well, I would even go for Charles Soules. When Charles Soules was announced, I was like, "Oh my god, really?" And
Yeah.
then I remember being extremely disappointed with Charles Soules' run. Like towards the end, I was like, "Man, this is real. It's getting ridiculous." And then to find out it's all a fever dream, like, "Oh my god, thank you!" Like it was so good. Like because I was in for the ride. I'm like, "All right, I guess I'll go down this ride." I am not liking it. It's not making any fucking sense. You're right. It's not supposed to make sense. It's his fever dream. Such a great way to get that. And then who was him before him? Was that Brubaker?
When yeah, no. Brubaker was after Bendis. But I feel like there's somebody in between.
There was Wade.
Oh yeah, Wade did the run. I mean,
There
which
was
is a
Wade.
phenomenal run.
I wasn't a big fan of it. Like I like the darker Daredevil, but what I love about it, and I think you and I have had this conversation before, Mark Wade, Peter David, a couple other guys, they're palate cleansers, right? They're people who will come on, they're not gonna mess up the sales, and it allows us to get the character back so you can bring him through those dark times again. Like if we didn't have that run and Daredevil kept going dark, like it would have been bad. And Mark Wade's such a great writer. All that dark stuff played out just in a different way, or it was there. It's just he kind of buried it on purpose, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, I liked what he did, and I'm a big fan of that pop art style. Like I'm a huge Allred fan.
Right,
And Samney's great as well. And I liked what they did, considering the fact that Daredevil was where he was, and they had to like do something. They couldn't
right,
just. I mean, they could just retcon and be like, "Nope, that didn't happen. Move on." But that's boring. Like to actually put him through a moment and then make that moment matter, and then retcon it.
right.
I mean, that's why I read comics. That's part of the reason I read comics. Like that's the stuff that makes it great. So I'm a big fan of that run. I think
The
it was good stuff.
the run that we forgot about in between all them was uh, Greg Rucker and Andy Diggle had a run. So you had the Shadowlands, which was I think
Yes.
Andy Diggle. So yeah. Which Diggle at the time was a huge name. He's kind of lost his lust, his the excitement for his comics. But back when that choice was made, like he was hot. Like he was like the next big thing.
Yeah. It's unfortunate. I like Diggle.
Oh, I think he's a great writer. I'm kind of curious what he's writing now. I think I saw him name it something. I'm gonna
He's on
Google that.
something. He might be on like an AWA book or something like
Right.
that. Jeez.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we get into my stuff, because we're gonna get there, let's talk about Cap. What are you excited, JMS?
So I discussed a little bit with Mike on the other episode of the show. I'm not a JMS guy.
I, and this offends me greatly, but go ahead, tell me why.
So this goes back to I'm not a Spider-Man person, so I did not read a Spider-Man. So
Sure.
we throw that out the door immediately.
Sure.
Tried his Thor, didn't really like it.
Mm.
I have all of his Superman Earth One, haven't read it, so I can't hold that against him. And I've just tried stuff throughout the years, and nothing ever clicks. His AWA stuff doesn't click. I'm told he has some other independent book that's really good that I've never read.
His best book, in my opinion, is a book called Midnight Nations.
That's the one Mike recommended.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the shit. And then Superman, though Earth One is good, he actually had a Superman and Jim Lee run. And the concept was Superman goes on the Earth and walks the Earth like Ken from Kung Fu, like it doesn't fly over things and has to address things that come up to him. So Superman was like dealing with domestic abuse situations and other crazy stuff, and that was pretty good. It was pretty good because it was a different take on Superman.
I will say though, as a child, how old was I when Babylon 5 came out? Middle school, maybe?
Yeah.
Me and my dad watched that show every week.
Okay.
So I have some connection to his work.
See, I do not like Babylon 5. My friend OJ tried to get me to watch it for years. And he was like, all right, just give me one season. So I watched the first season. And then he's like, oh, no, the main guy dies and like it gets way better with the new captain. I was like, I'm not watching a second season if I didn't like the first season. He was like, no. It's not good until the second season. You don't understand. It's like, no, you don't understand. If I don't like the first season, I'm not going to like the second. I promise you.
While I agree with you majority of the time, I've found that to be not true in some cases.
All right.
But I'll say this. I have not watched that show as an adult. So I don't know how I'd feel about it today.
Okay.
I was in middle school when that show came out, and it was a thing me and my dad sat down and watched together.
Right.
So,
right. Your parents couldn't afford regular Trek or anything good, X-Files.
So the funny part about that is my brother and my dad watched Trek together.
Okay.
I was not a big Trek guy, even though I've seen every movie.
Me too. That's my thing. I will watch any of the Star Trek movies all day long. And then I liked Q. There was Q. I liked him. I watched some episodes of him, but that's it.
I want to go back and try Trek because I've been told as an adult with the themes, especially was it Next Generation that Jon Stewart's in. I've been told the themes and the ideas that they hit in that show as an adult fit my sensibilities better. And I would probably enjoy it because it's a lot of philosophical stuff and like semi-political stuff. And so I've wanted to go back and give it a shot, but I have tried the original series and I'm sorry, it's unwatchable. Like,
I was into Highlander in Stargate. I wanted to watch things with the least things to buy. It was very important to me to not have a lot of merch because I go all in. So, and I already had Kevin Smith, and I already like Star Wars, so I just couldn't afford another franchise. Stargate had like nothing you could buy. Highlander had like a couple of swords, but besides some big investments, there wasn't really a lot to buy.
Yeah, I mean, comics and Star Wars, I'm already done.
Right, exactly.
There's no money left.
Right.
Oh, and Pokemon. I've got a bunch of Pokemon shit.
Yeah, that's a get one. At least they hold up their value, though. Pokemon, who would have thought that the cards that you bought back in the day, the Pokemon cards, would have held up value because you knew the magic. Like you could feel it when you were buying Magic back in the day that like these are going to hold up, value, and they've held up pretty well. They've remade a lot of the older cards so they don't hold up as well, but Pokemon, that stuff is not dropping in price. Like
it's still you can buy a box if you pull a Charizard. You paid for the box and then some.
Right, it's crazy.
I don't know what it is. I mean, it's funny because I'm always feel like I'm on the outside of a lot of these fan bases, but like I did not get the big. I mean, Charizard. It's a big dragon. Whoop de doo.
right? I'm a Bulbasaur guy.
That's why we're friends. Because so am I.
Right. He's the best Pokemon. Like I don't know why anybody would like. I don't even like him when he evolves. I like him just plain old Bulbasaur.
Exactly.
Just hanging out with Baba. Like that's that guy. I relate to that guy.
That's why when they made the Detective Pikachu movie and there's just the field of Bulbasaurs that he was walking through, I'm like, yes, this is prime movie making right here. This is all we need.
That movie was way better than it deserved to be.
Yes, and it should have set up a cinematic universe, and the fact that we're just now getting two is a crime against humanity.
I didn't even know two was coming. So
they are working. Well, they were working on it for these damn writers had to strike. How dare they?
How dare they want pay and compensation? As you know, let's go into that rant for a minute. As someone who I know you're starting to get back and put your toes into doing indie comics. So Coins of Judas, I got my first paycheck from it. My first paycheck from it because that was a paid work.
And you bought a house?
It was really hard as someone who, you've paid artists and you know that they always get money. Well, it was really hard to see that paycheck when I know that Tyler doesn't care about the marketing stuff. He just wants to draw the book. That's not what he does. So I sold 9 variant covers for various stores and got people jobs and all this. And he got paid significantly more than not just me, but my whole team, my wife, the letterer Jerome. He got paid this big chunk. Mine is a very small chunk of that. And then even when we get to profit share and it's still 50-50, I was like, this does not seem fair or right, and it's not right or fair. I mean, imagine Brian Michael Bendis would have to send a script, get it approved, do all that. Jim Lee has to sketch something and he can buy a house tomorrow and he can redo his bedroom set, right? Like, it's not fair.
I've said for a while I understand we're talking about the indie scene.
Yeah.
While I understand where artists are coming from, I think I think they expect way too much up front. Right. And they make the whole thing a hindrance to people that just hurts the scene as a whole. Right. But that said, it's all understandable because I could see very easily where an artist could get just fucked over real fast.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've never had a problem paying an artist or doing any of that. And I'm so lucky that I have the relationships that I have with the artists that I have. But it is, I wish that writers weren't responsible for all the marketing as well, and that didn't have its own value. All the marketing and all the stuff that a writer normally has to do, because every writer I know in the indie scene is doing all that marketing, or doing that extra, the legwork. And that's because the artist is at the table drawing. They don't have time to do that. If they were doing that, they're not drawing. Like, totally get it. Totally understand. But that extra work is not seen as valuable, which that is what keeps the book alive.
One thing I hear all the time that I've told a few artists, like artists I know, not just random people, but that
hey, Jim Lee.
Yeah, I just like walk up to them like, you're wrong about this. No, one thing I've heard a lot was like, well, we deserve to get paid more because we spend more time on the book. And I'm just like, maybe that's true for a Marvel writer, but like not in the indie scene, dude.
Sure.
The writer is spending just as much, if not more time on this book.
Right.
And maybe writing the script itself takes less time. Maybe. But the writer then compiles it, hires more people, does all these edits, does all this stuff, then does the marketing, puts together the Kickstarter, writes no. Right. Writers are undervalued in the indie scene, and it's very unfortunate. But
it is what it is. Yeah, it's the cost. I wouldn't change it up in any way, but it is tough.
I don't see a viable way to change it up.
Right.
Like there's no way that doesn't put the artist at risk of being screwed. So of course they're going to look out for themselves. And I've said my entire life, whether it comes to my day job or this or anything, like the first person you look out for is you and your family. and not in the negative way of like screw that person over to get what you
Right.
want. I'm just saying, like, you go to get a raise, like, you get yours. Doesn't matter
Right.
what I get, doesn't matter what he gets, you get yours. So I get it.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I mean, again, I'm not mad about it. It was just, it was. I'm so used to paying out, paying out, paying out. Then when I finally get paid, it's the same. It translates to the same. Right? It's the exact same. Here, you get all that. I was like, damn. But it is what it is. I can produce more books a year than an artist can
Yeah.
because of writing, So it is what it is. Quantity, not quality. Wait, no, that's not the way it should be.
Yes. Quantity, not quality. That's what it
Right.
is.
That
Who was
explains a
it
lot
that,
of our famous writers.
yeah, who was it that said it recently that they had to have like 4 or 5 books on the shelves in order to, it might have been Saladin Ahmed, but some big writer said, like, he was asked why he does so many books, and he goes, because this is my job, like, this is how I feed my family. If I
Yeah.
don't have this many books out monthly, I don't make mortgage or I don't make rent
Right.
or whatever it was.
Right. You do, a lot of the people pros who I talk to, they're just like, I do Marvel to pay rent. I do indie books to pay for retirement because if I can get one of those to hit, I can get the residuals. I get more money on that long term forever than I do a Marvel book. And even like I was just listening to James Tieran the third interview, and I had never thought about this. So the reason why you see like let's go use Donny Cates example. Donny Cates did Venom, killed Venom, and then he did the Venom. What was it called? What was the Venom crossover called? I can't think of it. What it was called?
What,
The Night
Absolute
King of Black,
Carnage?
the King of Black,
Oh,
and
King of
Maximum
Black.
Carnage. You do your whole career to do those events because over time the main series is not going to be sold as much, but
Mhm.
events will always sell forever. Like if you can get an Infinite Crisis, you're always going to get residuals for an Infinite Crisis, but you're not always going to get individuals for we'll use what was it? Final Crisis was the last one, the most recent one. No, what was the most recent one?
Dark Crisis.
Dark Crisis, right? Josh Williams will probably get more money over time for Dark Crisis than he ever will on his 200 something issues of Flash, because that will hold the test of time versus Flash. Because new writers are always going to be put on Flash. The comic stores, rightly so, will sell the newest stuff that ties into what's going on, not things that are 5 years ago. But Dark Crisis, is always going to hold up. A Secret Wars will hold up. Well, maybe not all Secret Wars. That Bendis one probably didn't hold up, but the rest of them did. Even though I like that one.
And it's the joke I actually made with Mike on the show earlier, where DC said something. He told me he found a thing where DC said something like they're not going to do a Crisis anymore. They're done with Crisis, and I'm like, yeah, until an anniversary comes or until they need a paycheck. Like, anyone that believes that Crisis is done is lying to themselves and doesn't understand the industry. Like, of course, there's going to be another Crisis.
Or even more specifically, understand DC. DC does that to reset their world. Yeah. That's what they do. That's their thing. Marvel doesn't have a thing like that, but DC does. That's actually one of the things that make DC cool. Is like every few years you kind of start from scratch a little bit and you can start. It's also annoying, but it's also pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, even Flashpoint was a crisis. Like,
right.
They don't call it, but it is.
Flashpoint is still, I still don't understand Flashpoint. I remember just going, oh, I'm just going to buy Flashpoint. Oh, yeah, he broke everything. Wait, what? No, like, I don't want to buy it now. Like, I didn't know. If I knew that, I wouldn't have bought it. Like, I'm sorry. Why did this happen? Like, I don't understand. And then New 52 was so weird, right? We're going to reset everything. Everything's going to be reset. Well, not Green Lantern and Batman, but everything else. So what? No, you can't. Okay.
So what's funny is I was such a DC fanatic, a Marvel fanatic.
Yeah.
The only DC book I read was Batman.
Right.
And I started going to the shop I'm going to now. right around the time Flashpoint came out, and he was like, "You got to read Flashpoint." And I was like, "Okay."
Right.
So that was the first non-Batman book I read at DC.
Right.
So New 52 was true. I was the guy that got introduced to DC through New 52.
Sure. Yeah.
And I've actually talked to a few, well, mutual friends like Blake, who also had the same experience. I was like, we should do something on New 52 because I think while it gets a lot of slack, especially from longtime fans who are like, what was this thing? For people like me, like New 52 is great.
Right.
I discovered a lot of characters that I still love through New 52. And I end up going back and reading the better stories afterwards. So, like,
Well, and certain characters got fixed, like Aquaman.
yeah.
Like Aquaman was so far off the rails, like he needed a fix. Like some of those characters needed that reboot to make it work. People like and that's why things like Batman and like Green Lantern didn't, because they had already been kind of fixed and like properly working. But yeah, Wonder Woman needed a fix. A lot of these characters needed fixes. And then Cyborg, leveling Cyborg up to be like, he's got to be our Iron Man. We need an Iron Man in the JLA, I thought that was kind of cool. It's just when they're like, well, there was never Teen Titans. Well, then this is lame. Right?
Well, it was their attempt to do Ultimates.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's really what they wanted. And unfortunately, then they hired Zack Snyder to do it, and it didn't work out. Snyderverse fans are really mad at me right now. But that was their attempt in that.
So you're saying the last Zack Snyder movie that was good was Watchmen? Because I hear you. I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
Yeah. Because what was that other movie after it with all that was just a bunch of action scenes with hot chicks?
Like Sucker Punch or Lollipop?
Sucker Punch.
Sucker Punch, yeah.
That was after Watchmen, right?
Correct.
So yes, Watchmen was the last, yeah. Because his Dawn of the Dead was good.
I actually enjoyed the Snyder cut of JLA, and this is a problem for me. Like Flashpoint or Flash, whatever the movie, I hate him as Flash in every ounce of my being. And it's not Josh Whedon's fault. It's not Zack Snyder's, because I watched them both. Still hated him equally. And it's so interesting watching the Snyder cut versus the Whedon cut, because you're like, oh, Whedon's a guy who understands these characters. So he tries to make it to akin to the DC people who love these characters. Zack Snyder's like, I don't give a shit about these characters. I had Superman kill somebody in the first movie. Like, you think I give a shit? And you can clearly tell the difference.
It's not that other than Batman v Superman's travesty from beginning to end, but it's not that. Superman was okay, other than the fact that, like, why did he kill that guy? Because that's just not. That's when it stops being Superman.
Right.
Like, that's the line Superman can't cross.
Right.
But the Snyder cut wasn't bad. It just wasn't this revelation. It wasn't the thing that was going to be like, all right, yeah, we definitely need to keep doing this. Like, if that was the moment when I finished that, what was that, like 20-hour fucking movie?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, okay, we can reboot this. Like, we've had enough misses. We can just move on. And I'm glad they're finally going to do it. But
did you watch Shazam: Fury of the Gods? I just watched it this week.
I haven't had a chance to yet. No.
All right, watch it. It's interesting.
Did you like the first Shazam?
No, I thought it was horrible.
Okay.
Well, let me revise it. I think I would have been okay with the movie. Adding the family in the first movie really ruined it for me. Like, it made me hate that movie, even if I liked it. Like, I felt it wasn't necessary. I felt it didn't fit. I felt like it really ruined, it being Shazam as the main guy.
I liked it, except for the fact that we had to do Zack Snyder villains.
Okay.
Like, you're trying to do this, like, upbeat, fun movie, but then it's a kid's movie too at that. But then you add, like, the 7 deadly sins that were terrifying. And, and I'm not saying they were wrong to, like, it wasn't comic accurate or something like that. Just no, like you didn't understand what the movie was. It's a children's movie, and everything else about it fits the bill. But that, and it just it took away from the tone of the movie.
Right.
It's kind of like
Yeah.
how in Wonder Woman, the first one. So I'm one of the few people that does not like that movie, and it's
Okay.
because the entire movie leads up to this moment at the end where it's like man does evil because not because something is puppeting man, just things happen and man does evil. And then they just reverse that whole thing by saying, and Ares was doing it the whole time. So the whole movie contradicts itself just because we needed a big boss fight scene at the end.
You're. I think that you need to search your soul, Chris, because I think you hate Wonder Woman because it's a better war movie than Captain America, and it upsets you in deep, deep in your heart.
All right, we're no longer pimping out Travis's book.
All right,
Dude,
good
the
interview.
first
I appreciate it.
no, if you took away that ending, that is a really good movie. It's a really fucking good movie. But the ending ruins it. It literally wipes out the entire movie's theme and plot. And I think that's the executive's fault. I do not think that's Patty Jenkins' fault. Because they had to have said, like, no, we need a villain because we have to sell a toy. And that's fine because I understand what this medium is, but then the movie you made was not the movie you made. I don't know. But
I
then she
like
made the
Ares.
second movie and it was terrible.
Yeah, I mean, that movie allows rape to happen on the regular basis, and I'm not cool with that. That's just weird.
Yeah.
That's not okay.
It's kind of like Harbinger.
Right. It's not okay. Yeah. And how can you mess up a movie that has like the darling of actors right now? You know, you've got what's his name? What's
Pedro
the villain's
Pascal.
name? Yeah, Pedro Pascal. Like, how could you like that guy is gold? He prints gold in everything he does, except for you. You were that red stain on his on his shirt.
That movie's so weird. So fucking weird. I'm so glad we're done with that DC universe.
Yeah. But
And
I actually think Black Adam wasn't as bad as people say. I don't think it was good in any means, but it wasn't.
it was just Batman v Superman with The Rock instead of Henry Cavill.
I could see that. I could see
It's
that.
literally beat for beat the same movie.
Um, well, not Doctor Fate adds new beats because he can time travel.
Doctor, that's the sad part. Is there's so many good things in that universe, like Doctor Fate,
Right.
that I loved. Like that was a great part of that movie, and that movie's not bad. It's just I remember watching it. And I'm like, why isn't this like clicking with me? I'm like, oh, because it's Batman v Superman. Just it doesn't have that terrible Martha scene.
Right.
And Doctor Fate's fantastic, and like I like Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. That, and I think Ben Affleck's a good Batman,
Yeah.
but like what they were given was just not great.
Do you know that he wanted to do a Batman movie? That he wanted to do Long Halloween, but he wanted to do it in one movie with all the villains, and that's why he stepped away.
Interesting.
Which I get why the execs didn't want to do that. Though, like that's a lot of actors. We need a lot of high profile actors, and we've got to commit to a lot of character designs that we probably don't want to commit with at once. But that would have been a great movie.
Well, and he's talked about doing Dark Knight Returns since he was a fucking teenager.
Right, sure.
Like he was on Mallrats, being like, "Let's do somebody should do Dark Knight Returns." So when he's given the chance to do it, and they just fuck it up, like I get where he's coming from.
Sure.
And then, Justice League was a disaster. Like not even just the movie itself, just the production, the aftermath, everything about it. If I was involved with it, I wouldn't want anything to do with it.
No, that movie was pretty bad. Pretty. I mean, I don't understand. Like, I just don't get it. I just don't get it. The whole thing, like, why would you not have a real villain? Like, why would you have a villain who had what 3 appearances prior? Like,
And it was rushed.
right?
It really, I mean,
And then Doomsday in Batman vs Superman. Like, what are we doing here? Like, give us real Doomsday. We deserve real Doomsday. Don't give us whatever this is.
And these are all moments you got to earn.
Right.
Earn them. Because what really, I've said this a million times, but I love ranting about DC movies.
Yeah.
What bugged me the most about the Snyder cut was when we cut to Superman, like before he comes back,
Right.
and they have this whole like soliloquy about like how the S stands for hope, and he was a beacon ray of sunshine, and all this bullshit. I'm like, no, he wasn't.
Right.
He was never that. Not in your universe.
Right. He was the guy who destroyed Metropolis, like when his enemies come to town.
Let's not even talk about Suicide Squad.
Amanda Waller is the only person who makes sense in the Snyder universe. Like, that character makes sense.
That actress is phenomenal. She was born to play that role, and if she's the only one that makes it over to the new universe, I'm fine with that.
I don't think that's going to happen. I think more of that universe is going to come over than we'd like.
I think the ones, I mean, I trust James Gunn. I think
I do too.
The ones I want to move over are going to move over. Like, I don't think if they hold on to Ezra, I don't know what they're doing.
I mean, they're not marketing that movie as a Flash movie, which is my favorite part. This is
it's a Michael Keaton Batman movie.
Dual Batman. I even heard George Clooney's in it.
That would be hilarious.
I heard George Clooney's in it. Someone told. So we have someone local here who said they saw a cut, and he said that there was a spot that he said he didn't see George Clooney in the cut, but there's spots that say effects are, and the only thing that would make sense is George Clooney being in that spot is what he claims.
If we get Bat Nipples, 10 out of 10, best movie ever.
Yeah, fantastic.
I'm excited for that movie. I think it's going to be good, but Ezra can't stick around.
No, I don't. And he doesn't feel. This guy's supposed to be a detective. Like, this guy, he's Peter Parker. Like, you're trying to make Peter Parker. Like, don't make Peter Parker. Make him the Flash. You have a character. If you want Peter Parker, make Impulse. Or, have a Robin. Like, there is Peter Parkers you have that you can, like, characters that can go the Peter Parker route where you'll be okay with. It is not that guy.
Yeah. The Flash.
Now
I'm so behind on movies right now, dude. So I haven't watched Shazam.
Okay.
I want to watch the movie Air.
Okay.
I don't know if you were into that or not, but
I'm into Ben Affleck doing stuff, so I'd watch it for that.
I want to watch the Tetris movie.
Okay.
Have not watched that yet. I just missed. So I'm a big Burt Kreischer fan. So The Machine came out.
Right.
I want to watch that. Didn't watch Spider-Verse this weekend, so I'm already behind on that. And something else I'm behind on that I'm forgetting about. Oh no, I watched Super Mario, so I'm not behind on that anymore. But that's like 6 movies right there I haven't watched.
Yeah, I was that way too, but I just watched Shazam 2 because it came out on Paramount, or whatever, Max. And then I watched the Dungeons & Dragons movie last night. So I'm caught up a little bit because those are 2 movies I missed. But there's still a bunch of stuff I need to see. Like Knock on the Cabin, I really wanted to see that. I didn't get to see that.
That's the other one. I didn't see that.
Fool's Paradise is in theaters right now. That's Charlie Day. I'm a big Always Sunny in Philadelphia fan. I want to see that. There's something else that's big that's on one of the streaming services that I need to see. Pretty much on every platform, there's a movie that I need to see that I missed on its first run.
Yeah, it's funny is I got Apple TV Plus just to watch Tetris, and then I was just like, everybody talks about Ted Lasso, so I started watching that.
Is it great?
Dude, what a fucking show.
Right?
I mean, especially, the second season, I think it's weird. I like the first season better than the second season, but the second season touched me more.
That makes sense, yeah.
Because, like, they dealt with anxiety and panic attacks and stuff like that in a real way, and that's something that I have dealt with and deal with. and so it touched me in that way. But that first season was just Mike puts it best. It's like a warm blanket. Like he's so wholesome and so like awesome in that first season, and then they pull it all together in the last. Like that show was phenomenal. Some of the best 3 seasons ever.
It's really, but I like everything on Apple TV that I watched. I watched that Jason Segel show. I can't even think of the name of it. Shrinks. Maybe?
Yeah, with Harrison Ford.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
movie's great. I watched Mythic Quest on Apple TV. I think that's a great movie.
currently watching that and I'm enjoying it.
And then there's a what is the other one? There was a like a mini series that was based off a true story that had Paul Rudd and Will Ferrell.
I think I saw that
Can't
one.
can't think of the name of it, but it's basically about this psychologist that manipulates. So Paul Rudd, is a psychiatrist who manipulates Will Ferrell and basically giving all his wealth to him and like everything he's earned giving to him and like manipulates him over 10 years. And it's based off a true story, and it's very, very sad of someone who just needed a friend and needed someone to love him and abuse him and uses him.
Yeah, I'm in the middle of Mythic Quest. Good show, fun,
Yeah.
not too much to think about there. I'm gonna try to watch Tetris this week, but I also got The Big Con on there that I want to
Okay.
watch.
Yeah.
That's the same guys that did that McDonald's documentary about the guys who scam the Monopoly.
Yeah. I definitely, that's on my list of ones I want to see. I also started I watched the first season of like the morning show thing that was really good. I never got the second one. So there's a bunch of shows that I need to see on there too that I haven't got. The Severance I heard is really good.
Yeah.
So no, I think you're making the right call.
Then I need to jump over to Netflix because I haven't watched Sweet Tooth season 2 yet.
I did not finish the first season, so I need to do that.
I love the first season.
I am so
I
behind on
love
shows.
it.
I didn't watch any of Dragon. I didn't watch any of the Game of Thrones. Whatever the new one is, Dragon, whatever House of Dragon. I didn't watch any of that. I didn't watch. I'm only a few episodes in the Mandalorian season 4. I'm really behind. I didn't even finish Peacemaker yet.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'm super. My wife, anything that my wife wants to watch with me, we kind of jump around. And then my wife has a very hard job. I've talked about how she works in Child Protective Services. So
Mm-hmm.
we don't want to watch dark things if she's had a dark day. Like if we gotta go the opposite way. And then sometimes if the day sometimes we need to watch familiar stuff. If we're going to bed, like an Office or Parks and Rec. So we kind of jump around those, and then we have kids that stay up till like 10:30 at night. We can't even go to bed. So like by the time we get them to bed, we're like, all right, we got an hour, or we could just get up early, tomorrow, like we need to, and go to bed now. So we go to bed now more times than not.
The life of a parent.
Right? It's rough. It's rough, but Heather's awesome, so I wouldn't change for the world. And you saw how badass she was at a restaurant. If shit needs to get taken care of, she doesn't care like what you're allowed to do, what you can't do. She'll tell you what you can and cannot do.
It was funny that whole. So I mean, no one else knows what we're talking about, but
Yeah,
yeah,
we
we
should
went
probably
to a
tell 'em.
restaurant and there was a whole kerfuffle, and Travis's wife and daughter took care of the kerfuffle by being badasses. That's me over the phone, but as you've come to know and I've talked about on the show, when I get into a public thing, I cast harden on myself and I just curl into a ball and I don't do anything.
Right.
And usually someone has to push me into the scenario. So usually in like public scenarios like that, I'm just like, yeah, it's fine. We'll make it work. That's fine.
Right. Be very accommodating. Right. Sure. And normally, like I'm the person who takes care of all that, but I think I was just managing all the other. You were visiting, and you were out of town, and then I had Trevor who was visiting. Like, so I had all these people who don't hang out with on the regular. David Byrne and Joel and all those guys. they see me all the time, so whatever that can make work. But you guys were all like coming in, and Patrick and I had never met in person until that, and Jerome was there, so I was kind of managing all that. So Heather stepped up like she does.
Yeah, that was a great con. That was
Yeah,
getting to meet all those guys. I mean,
I'm glad you came.
Trevor's someone I've talked to here and there. We had him on the show because of that
Nice,
meeting.
nice.
So yeah. What do you say? We're an hour into this.
Yeah. You want to talk about broke down four dead bodies?
I say you
I've
got
heard
a book.
you've read it before, I think.
I have. So the first time we ever met was over Broke Down Four Dead Bodies.
Oh, that's romantic. That's
Yeah.
good. It's
This
all
is
full
a
circle.
reunion.
It's all full circle. We haven't talked about anything since.
So I did have a few questions for you about the book.
Yeah.
I mean, let's start. Anyone that doesn't know, it's been a while since you did a campaign for Broke. It's been almost a year and a half.
It's been close to 2 years, believe it or not.
So what's the book? Let's give it that to start.
So broke down in four dead bodies about two guys, Randy and Denver. They break down on the side of the road. They have four dead bodies in them. And everyone's out to get them, from the mafia to a Spanish gang to the police, of course. And they hate each other. And it just gets worse and worse. They have a mysterious case and they got to figure out what's in it, why it's important, what's going on. It's a nice coming of age story, good for the kids, family.
All ages title.
All ages title. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so this is the first book I read by you, and I mean it's a crime action movie. It's I think what you were trying to do was basically a Tarantino movie, like an early Tarantino movie as a comic. And that's kind of how I felt about it. Was it reminded me of that style. And you did all 4 issues. It was a 4-issue mini. Got them all out, successful, and now we're doing the collection.
Yeah.
So you've done plenty of, or not. I mean, yeah, you've done a lot of Kickstarters, and you've done anthologies, and you've done single issues, and you've done all this. This is the first time you're collecting 4 issues of a series, or any issues of a series, into a trade paperback that you've made. So far in the campaign, what's been like the biggest difference between this and doing like a single issue?
Well, the first thing is I don't have any of my tricks, right? The tricks I can have is I can have variant covers down the wazoo to get you to pay just a little bit more to get this variant cover to that variant cover. Just part of the game. I don't particularly love variant covers, and I've been very clear on that, but I get the game, and I also get that people want variations of their stuff. They want something special. They want a little bit more print around. It just doesn't fit with trade paperbacks, right? So, we do one, but that's kind of it. So I don't have all that extra pizzazz that I can put in a campaign. 2, it's a lot more personal to me. So it's a little bit harder. Like, I can't separate myself to it because I was like, this is everything. Like, you got it before. Like, I'm trying to resell something you already have. Like, and that's a little hard, right? Mm-hmm. It's a little hard, and there's some specials in there. I've added a few pages and stuff like that. But I'm reselling something, and that's hard. I'm like, I've asked you to buy my book, which is one thing, a $5 book, or on Kickstarter it's $20, but now I'm asking to live on your shelf. Like, that's a different ask. It is a huge different ask. I don't think people think about that. Like, living on someone's shelf is a different ask, and trying to figure that out and try to get something that's valuable to people, but also really stay true. My ask is a little higher. It's 6,500. And that's just because I want to order like 500. I don't want to ever order it again. Like, I want to have enough that I can hold it on forever. It's already got to, like, when you visited me at MegaCon, I didn't have any broke down on the rack because I had to get rid of them because of just all the books I produced over the years. So I want to be able to get it back out, get it in people's hands. And I think it's a good book. You mentioned that it's like Quentin Tarantino, and it is. It's definitely the goal. But one of the other things, like on a comics world, everything you read that's crime is all dirty and heavy inks, right? It's not clean. I wanted to write a clean, in the drawing perspective, a clean version, much like, Pulp Fiction. Pulp Fiction, the big murders in the beginning happen at breakfast, right? That doesn't happen at a crime show. Everything happens at night. It's all, these things. I wanted to do that, kind of style and do that in comics. So it's putting all those things together. And, there's a lot of people who don't even know what Broke Down is, I think, now, because they know me for Granite State Punk, or they know me for Voodoo, or they know me for Coins of Judah. So trying to get those people to jump over and try some of my older stuff.
Have you noticed, I mean, like you said, it's been a while. Have you seen whether there's a lot of people that have come back for the trade after getting all 4 issues, or?
Yeah, but not as many as I expected. I expected to be way higher than I am right now. And they're not. And I don't know. Some people have told me, like, one of my stretch goals is a hardcover. They're kind of holding out for that hardcover to get to there. And I was like, well, it's never going to get there if we don't get the other stuff up there. My last campaign, issue 4, was 6,425 with 276 backers. When we're at 89 and we've got a couple more days we start a week. And I'm only running a 20-day campaign. So it's a little nervous. I do think we'll get there. I do absolutely think we'll get there. We've always get there. But yeah, it's been a little tough to bring people back. And I think one of the things I need to do on the campaign is kind of explain what's new with the campaign that you haven't read before,
Well, now's a good time to explain it. What is new?
Yeah. So I've added a few pages. I've added kind of an epilogue. We're also going to go through it and do a re-edit of some of the pages, because I'm a better storyteller. So I may remove some dialogue, add some dialogue, change some stuff up. We have all the backup stories. We also, at stretch goals at various levels, we're going to add new stories. So I have a complete comics worth of stories done by big people. Jonathan Hendrick. I have Chuck Pinu. I have Sierra Florence as an artist. I'm trying to look at my folder. I have so many of these books that are completely done and been done for a long time in a folder, ready to get in there. But I want to get us to the point where we can produce the trade and then add all these extra things. And I want it to be like a 200-page book when it's all done. We just got to get there,
Definitely. Yeah. So you're not doing any variant covers for it at all. You're just doing the standard cover.
There's 2 covers. There's one and there's a virgin. So there's a new cover that I produced. Both covers are new. So there's a new cover I produced, and then there's a virgin done by the original artist. So that's it. There's only 2. There's not like tons. And again, I just want to keep it special and simple. One of the things I did was I threw a lot in the collector's kit this time. I have a postcard set of all the original sketches of the characters that I'm going to hand number and sign. I have the original ash can, which is done by I'm going to reprint that. It's an 8-page ash can by a different artist. I'm going to go ahead and reprint that and put that in there. I'm going to do a metal bookmark. So I have some special stuff in there, but I really wanted to keep it very simple, very, very easy. Hey, here's just the book, come and get it. And then we can add some extra stuff as we go.
And why are you afraid to do booby covers?
Well, we only have the one character, and she's not into issue 4. I think people would be very disappointed when they, it's, about 100 pages in before you see her. And I don't think those people would be interested in the deer mask that I would have mandatory to get that cover.
Oh my God, that'd be amazing.
I mean, I think that deer mask is great, but I'm just saying, like, not a lot of sex appeal.
I've talked to a few people that we both know, and about the not safe for work cover phenomenon, because I just don't get it. Like, right. I can Google boobs whenever I want.
Sure.
But a couple of them have told me, like, they've done them, but not in the way that people want.
Right.
For instance, not to plug another Kickstarter, but we talked about him earlier. Fairgray's got a not safe for work cover, and he showed it to me.
Right. All the D's, right? All the D's, yeah.
It's stuff like that, but it's a weird world, man. So yeah, so you're sitting.
This book is tough, right? You're in the comics industry. You know that crime is the worst selling book in every publisher, right? Their crime book is the bottom of the thing, which is so weird because if I don't know if you know this, but on TV and movie, like their TVs and regular books, like crime is number one.
It's something because I love crime comics. I
Yeah,
mean, I'm a huge Brubaker fan,
right,
and it's something I bring up to people all the time with crime books. Brubaker and Sean Phillips only do graphic novels now, and they're doing
right,
that on purpose. And it's because they were putting out Criminal, and number one would sell like hotcakes,
right,
and then two would sell nothing.
right,
So they're like, well, if they're not going to come, or if they're only going to come for number one, then they're just going to come for the trade,
right,
and that's what we're going to do.
right.
And it seems to work for. I mean, they're also Brubaker and Phillips, but
Correct.
I mean that does show that even those two guys at the peak of their power. I mean, probably Cap was the peak of his power, but you know what I mean. Like being top tier creators, crime just I don't know. It's weird. You're right. It's weird.
Yeah, no, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, Ed Brisham does some great crime stuff too, but it doesn't barely barely gets a mention, on his career. It's wild. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because we devalue little criminals because of the superheroes we have, right? We devalue regular criminals because, we have Red Skulls and Doctor Dooms running around and, Doctor Octopuses and Vultures, like all these, like those are way cooler. I don't know. It is insane to me that in an age where Archie still exists, that there's no Dick Tracy book. You know,
Yeah.
it's insane to me.
Well, it's one of those things that like you hear all the time. Like, well, detective's a Batman, or I mean, Batman's a detective book. He's a detective. I'm like, no, he's not.
Right,
Like technically, yes, he is. They'd be like, he's the world's greatest detective, so he solves the crime. But that's not a detective book. That's not a crime book.
right.
Like the closest they ever came was a Gotham Central, which I still need to read. But I've never read a Batman book where he was really like in the dirt, like a fucking Brubaker book, or
Oh.
even a Peak Bendis independent book, or something like that.
And every time he's ever got stuck, he's asked the Flash, someone who actually works in the detective unit, and starts it. I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
it is. It's a strange one. It's unfortunate because it's probably my favorite genre outside of superheroes that in comics. But
Yeah, I wish right now we were going through, like, because I feel we're coming to the end of the horror trend. Do you feel that? Like, I feel that we're coming towards the end of the
I hope
horror
so
trend.
because I'm just not a horror guy.
Okay,
Like I mean, I'm a very specialized horror guy.
sure.
Um, and I hate seeing creators I really love on it. Although at the same time, like I I say I hate horror, but like I love vampire stuff if it's not Twilight. And I have enjoyed the abundance of vampire stuff from creators I like recently. So there's a upside and a downside to it. But yeah, I think you're right. I think people it's got everything comes in waves, and eventually horror's going to go away, and I'll be interested to see what's next. But
And do you feel that me, and you can be honest, we're friends, that I'm never going to make it to the next level until I come up with my vampire story? Scott Snyder had his vampire. Donny Cates had his vampire. I need my vampire.
it's true, yeah.
It's, I got a
That
vampire.
or it depends because it used to be you had to have your zombie book.
Oh, right, it's true. It's true.
Now it's vampires. What you have to do is figure out what the next thing is,
Right.
which I'm telling you, it's the Mummy.
Right. Because Invisible Man. Invisible Man. I
Oh yeah,
watched.
you're right.
I watched the other day. You could Google it, a wrestling promotion that had a Invisible Man versus Invisible Stan, and it was a referee mocking what the invisible characters were doing each time because he could see them with special 3D glasses. And it was, I thought it was the stupidest thing I've ever seen, but watched all 25 minutes of it, just fascinated by.
That sounds like genius to me.
I highly recommend it. It is a thing, and the fans were absolutely into it. They were loving it.
So how do you feel now? So you're going through the campaign, and I know you've talked about. I mean, I don't know if you talked about it publicly, but I'm going to throw you out on the bus anyways.
Yeah, go ahead.
That your campaigns have kind of slowed down. You're not seeing the surge you used to see on certain things.
Sure.
How do you feel about the state of Kickstarter right now? Are you worried about it?
I am worried. I think it's the economy more than the quality of the books. At least I hope so in my case. I don't know. I don't know what it is that's slowing it down, but I do see there's a significant shortage of campaigns that are getting it. And I think there's a lot more people on the platform that are worth backing. I think back in the day, there was a few of us who were at a higher tier. And I say that not with any ego, just knowing my campaign versus others, where I feel there's a lot of really high level talent on the platform now. And I think a lot of us have gained names and stuff, and you can't afford everybody, right? Like if your normal budget for your comic store is $40 a week, and then your monthly budget on Kickstarter is 200, like it's something's got to give, you know. So you've got to leave a couple in the lurch, you know. And I think that's tough. So I am a little nervous, but I believe in the work. Especially this product. You know, I believe that Broke Down deserves to be on somebody's shelf. I believe that it holds up. Do I think it's as good as Granite State Punk? Absolutely not. I wouldn't say that. But I do feel that there is very few crime noir stories that you can get, and I think that mine holds up just as good as a Straight Bullets or a Criminal. I think it should be on the shelf of them. Maybe in the back of the shelf of them, but it should be on there.
Right next to Alan Moore's Swamp Thing.
Right next to Alan Moore's Swamp Thing, right. No, like it should be, there should be a small gap, like something from the awesome or extreme universe from Rob Liefeld, and then like I'm right before that, and then goes to Alan.
No, that shit stays off my shelf.
I've actually recently decided I want to get all issues of Alan Moore Supreme because I don't think I appreciated it as much as I should have at the time. But it's super expensive. It's not super expensive. Just the people who have it don't want to get rid of that shit.
I've never read it. I've been interested to read his Supreme, but
yeah. Have you ever heard the big gimmick in it?
No.
Like one of the big things is like they have a court case and they find out they're all in a comic book. Like there's a Bible of what happens beginning, middle, and end from the writers, and they use as a case inside the comic. It's wild Alan Moore, crazy shenanigans.
Well, yeah, that's after Alan Moore got screwed and he hates comics. So
right. Have you ever seen it? Like, how can you hate your adaptation of Watchmen? Like, no offense, but Watchmen the movie, like the ending is way better than Aliens. I'm just telling you.
I think he plays it up a little bit.
Oh, sure.
Like, I think he's playing a character to a certain extent.
Right.
I love him. He's just a grumpy old man. It's fine.
Well, and I was listening to an interview the other day. Someone made a very good point. If the best center fielder of baseball was a warlock, like in comics, where our best comic writers arguably are Alan Moore and Grant Morrison, they're both self-proclaimed wizards. Why are not more of us claiming to be wizards to try to take that throne and try to get an edge on other people?
That's why I grew a beard, man, because all the great comic writers have beards.
Right. I'm just saying, like, I should be a wizard.
I mean,
but yeah, going back to your question.
Look it up later. Let's see what it takes for us to become wizards.
Right. I got to figure it out. I don't know. In my case, it's really hard to figure out where it is. I produce a lot more books. I've done 9 books this year. Right. I'm producing a lot more books. So is there a strain on stuff like Colin Bunn? Colin Bunn does way too many books for me to support all of them. I love Colin Bunn's writing. I think he's a great writer. I'll probably get the majority of them in trade later down the thing, but it probably won't be till they're in a $5 bin. But I'll check them out because it's Colin Bunn. But he's producing too many things. So am I at that point? And I don't know. And then some people have told me that they want to back me, but they see me getting into the direct market, so they don't want to pay for it twice. Like if it comes in the direct market, they don't want to get it again. And I can also understand and respect that. I get that, but I also, on me, I like seeing that. Like, oh look, my friend's little publishing company now has a Scout label on it, or it has an After or Dark Horse or whatever. That means a lot to me. Watching that, being in the scene. So I don't know.
Have you ever thought that because you like to put out like one, maybe two issues of a book in a year,
Right,
but then you had like 9 books in a year,
right.
so they're all different titles. Have you ever wondered if that's the hindrance that could be doing something that maybe just doing one book, like getting all of them out within a shorter period, would help?
It could be. I would, and I'd like to do that. I love Charlie Stigney's White Ash, right? He's mostly just White Ash. He'll do a game periodically, but it's mostly just White Ash or my White Ash adjacent. And if I could restart my career, I probably would have done that and just stuck to one thing and made that work. But I'm kind of too far in the rabbit hole to do that now. And then a lot of the stuff is not like No Contest. That's not my book. That's Daniel's book that I happen to write. Should I be punished? But should, I know people are like, well, I just bought one of your books. Well, you didn't buy my book. Same thing with Expired. Expired's not my book. It's Brett Hillsmeyer's book. Brett Harmish, sorry. I just write it, right? I write the book for him. It's not necessarily an Orange Cone book. My books are Granite State Punk, Coins of Judas, Voodoo Nations, and Broke Down Mortal Bodies. Even Cthulhu Invades that's an anthology. So I don't know. I've thought about putting multiple on one Kickstarter to help, to try to reduce shipping and stuff like that. But that's hard too when you're trying to budget how much a book brought in.
Yeah, I've just always wondered because I see different, and we're in the spitball portion of this
Sure.
conversation, everybody. Uh, I've seen people do where they focus on one book and just get that book out. So if it's, and we can use Trevor for instance. Trevor put out the Area 51 book, and
Right.
he did the 6 issues. Now he's moving on to his one shot, and then who knows
Right.
what he does after that. And I've seen a few other people do that as well. I've always wondered if that's the better track, that like keeping people's attention on one book, and not even, I mean, like you said, maybe not count No Contest on it because that's not your Kickstarter. Um, and you could throw an anthology in there or something like that, but maybe like just getting Voodoo Nations done
Right.
and then moving on to um whatever, Expired, or
Yeah.
and something like that, and then Granite State Punk could be the one that you throw in here and there because they're really one shots, even though they're
Right.
part of a series. I don't know. I've
It's
wondered that if which one is better, which one works
uh,
better, and I don't think there's an answer, but you
no,
know,
there's definitely not. I mean, right now Voodoo's done. I have the next issue of Voodoo done, ready for Kickstarter. It's probably not going to do it till late in the year, because of all the stuff lined up coming out for the rest of the year. But also, like, I think getting more stuff and building a fan base, I think, is important to me in my career. My goal is to level up. I got to produce things. I got to get them in trades. I got to do all that. And then sometimes, when you're in the indie scene, an artist can only do a book every 4 months, 4 or 5 months. That's tough. That's really tough for someone who wants to make this a career. I don't want to work at my web design company anymore. I want to just do I just want to do comics. And I don't have. I'm not David Pepos, right? I don't have a Marvel gig and then can throw an OZ out periodically. I have a bunch of other Kickstarter books with a bunch of other Kickstarter creators. I do have Coins of Judas, and I'm starting to do Granite State Punks, but trying to do that. But I will tell you, in the future, you're probably going to see more of a focus on some stuff. I'm going to try to separate them where I'll have, these books are more Kickstarter books. These books are more direct market books, and try to separate the two a little bit more. It's just going to take time because I kind of put myself into a hole with all these things.
yeah, and I understand there's financial aspects to all that too. But what I took from that is that, like everything else in comics, is Peppo's fault.
Right. Yeah. No. If Pepos wasn't successful, when I have him on my show tomorrow night, I'm gonna inform him that he's already written, Savage Avengers, whatever, but he's already written an actual issue of Fantastic Four. That's gonna outlive him. Like, and annual Hulk, which is less exciting because annuals can be forgotten, but it is the Hulk. Like these are main titles. Like these are big deals. You know, not many series. Like and he has not once said, "Hey, we need a 17th Spider character for Edge of the Spider Verse and put my name in a hat." Like what's going on?
So it's funny. I mean, I don't know him as well as you. I know him okay-ish, but and obviously he doesn't listen to the show because nobody does. It's just I'm just talking to him like for fun. But I make I make fun of two people all the time on the show, and it's him and you.
Right?
And I always and on Twitter I'm always on his ass about things, and I don't really understand where that came from. I just started blaming him for things,
Right?
and it's just fun now. And I think it's the only reason. That's probably why he doesn't come on the show anymore. At first, it was Marvel because Marvel hates me for some reason, but I think now it's just because why would I go on this guy's show? He just blames me for everything.
Right?
I think I just came to the conclusion of what just happened.
That,
I want to say between you and me, even though we're
yeah.
recording,
Right.
that
I
Hulk
won't tell
thing,
anybody.
that was
Yeah.
the first thing I didn't like by him.
Really, I like the Hulk thing.
I didn't enjoy it.
I liked it. I liked it.
Loved his Savage Avengers,
I
but
liked it too. It took. I don't like. The only thing I don't like about Savage Avengers is he wrote it like a Conan book, which I totally get, but I hated. I hated. So I was enjoying the panels more than the stuff. So when they got to 2099 and that stuff went away, and it was Miles' voice instead of Conan's voice, way happier.
see, I love Conan. So,
Yeah,
but that reveal that it was Miles, yeah,
yeah, yeah. Beautiful. And then even like the 2099 that he did is the 2009 that I love. I found that like in the last few years, when they go to 2099, it's like a pale reflection of what I remember. But you get certain people like a Pepos who are like, "Oh, I actually read that shit. Like I'm not trying to remake it in my own image. Like I actually read that shit. And here you go."
I think it was you that said when I said that was the first 299 book I liked since the original. And you were like, yeah, it's because it's the actual 299.
Right, it is. Like Kirkman fucked it up. It was Kirkman. Like Kirkman's done a lot of good in the comic industry, but when Kirkman came out with those random 2099 issues and gave us new characters that weren't related, it messed everything up.
So Kirkman was trying to blow it up on the way out, man.
It is. It
He
is.
wrote the
It's
greatest
Kirkman.
Ant-Man story ever written and then just blew it all up on the way out.
I would even argue the best Marvel team up. His Marvel team up was fantastic.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And not just because Invincible showed up. It was really, really good. Got together, it's good. But Invincible showing up is kind of cool.
Yeah, I love me some Invincible. Well, Travis, you've been more than generous with your time, man. So I'm going to let you go, but tell everybody out there, where can they find you and remind them what the book is?
Yeah, it's
Before we
Broke
take
Down
off.
for Dead Bodies. That's what you can find, brokedown4deadbodies.com. You'll bring you right to the Kickstarter. This Kickstarter, like I said, is super important to me. If you guys have been following my career and you haven't read my early work, please pick it up. I think you can kind of see, I think you'll get a better understanding of me as a writer. I don't know if you agree with that, Chris. Like that uh, things are deeper. I assume we've never actually talked about it. Were you actively surprised at a lot of the reveals on issue 4?
It's
That's
been a
okay to
while
say
since I
no.
read it, but I remember enjoying the reveals, yes.
Yeah, because I tie a lot of things together. Like I think that you can really see me as a writer. There's some rookie stuff in there, absolutely, but you can also see that I think about things and think about them way far out in advance. I'm not just throwing things on a page, right? Like it's planned out from issue 1. Things that were said are important and line up with issue 4, and in the case and why you don't see the facing of the number on the case for a long time and what's going on and how it all ties together. All those things matter, and like I think that you'll really get some cool stuff. And if it's your first crime book, I think it's a really good fit, and it's a good transition into things like Criminal or Stray Bullets because it's closer to a movie than those things than Criminal. Those are very comic book focused. Where mine is more movie, it feels more like a movie. getting crazier and crazier and accelerating. And then, like most crime movies, what you thought you knew was wrong all along, blah, 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 because that's how you write crime. It's just the rules. So, yeah, please pick it up. I love hanging out. I love talking about my book, and it needs some love to get to our goal.
Yeah, so everybody out there, as usual, check those show notes for the link. Check out the Kickstarter. It is a very good book. Travis, thank you so much for taking the time, man. I always love talking with you.
I love talking to you, brother.